If you're looking for help with naming a business, you are in the right place. In this video, we're gonna talk about some tips and tricks and some ideas for choosing a brand name for you, for your new brand, for your new company, for your new business. So I'm super excited to have you here. My experience is that I've created multiple businesses in my time. I've created actually 4 different businesses. I've named all of them. And through my business coaching company, I've also helped many different clients come up with names for their businesses and to start and launch and grow and all that stuff. So I'm hoping that through my process, you're gonna be able to identify what your brand name can be, or at least help you narrow it down a little bit. And another really exciting thing is that I'm actually gonna tell you the name of my brand new business. Last week I told you guys that I'm starting a new company. Well, company is a strong word. It's not necessarily gonna be a company. It's gonna be a new thing, a new passion project. But I'm going to reveal the name for the first time publicly. Only like 3 people know the name and I'm super excited about it. So you're gonna be the next to know all about it because this is Behind the Scenes Tuesdays. Welcome. This is your girl, Camila. Heart Behind Hustle TV. So excited you are here. If you're an entrepreneur or course creator and you're ready to launch, grow, or scale your business with heart and not sleaze, you are in the right place. So hit that subscribe button, do that thumbs up, and let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna tell you a lot around naming a business, and hopefully you have something to write with because I'm just gonna kind of lay it on you. I'm just gonna share a lot of things, and I don't know what's gonna stand out to you. I don't know what's gonna resonate with you. I don't know what you might have heard in the past or not. I will share my experience though, because I've named a few businesses. Obviously I've had 4, and I wanted to hopefully help you because the most common advice that we hear out there is really based on like, how do you start a massive company like Amazon, like Google, like Facebook and these like tech companies. And yeah, the tech companies have very like creative names, and that's fine, that's great, it's interesting. I honestly have no clue how these people come up with these names, to be completely frank with you. And most of my clients are service providers, online service providers, course creators, coaches, or potentially, like influencers, YouTubers, people like that. And it doesn't really make sense to have a super clever, creative name for businesses that are just like a small business, a micro business, and that's probably what you're creating too. So, you can definitely go with that, and you can try to figure that out. And if you're looking for a super, super clever, super creative name like Twitter or, like LinkedIn or whatever, like those massively cool names, I mean, this is probably not going to be the place for you because I don't know, most people in my community aren't starting businesses like that. So anyway, still good to watch, I think. So we'll just see. Before we get started, I'd love to hear what kind of business you are starting and you're coming up with a name for. So go ahead and leave a comment below. And I'm curious to hear what kind of names you're floating around. And yeah, I'd love to see where your head is at basically. But what I want to share with you, there are typically 4 different types of brand names or business names that you can choose. The first one I already told you, it's more of a creative, clever type of name. And I will tell you some considerations and some tips and things like that. But first I want to share with you like the types of names typically that exist. And they usually fall into 4 categories, with the first one being clever, creative, kind of, yeah, I just have no clue how people come up with these names. I'm very much in awe. Yeah, I don't have that skill. I don't have that gift. I'm okay with it. I've accepted it. And it's okay. It's fine. There are 3 other types of categories that you can consider though, because the first one, like I said, is great for apps, tech companies, e-commerce potentially. The most common types of business names that I see out there are more descriptive names. Descriptive names are basically brand names or company names or business names that literally say the description of what you do. So for example, we've got Profit First. Profit First is a methodology, also a book, but I'm pretty sure it's also a business. And it's a whole concept around for CEOs to make sure you're paying yourself first and prioritizing profit, right? So Profit First makes sense. Another one is like Thrive Agency. It's a marketing company that helps their clients thrive. Oh, look at that. Thrive, right? Makes sense. And there's many other types as well. Results-driven marketing. That is also an agency name. Wouldn't you know it? Pretty obvious. I know exactly what I'm getting. Results-driven marketing. I got that. Okay. That is actually probably one of the most common ones. And I think it actually works really great, especially for service providers, service-based businesses. You know, if you're in a marketing space or you just do something for your clients. I think that is pretty straightforward. And it's probably the easiest one to come up with. It does, of course, have to be snippy and memorable. And we're going to talk about that in a bit, but that is a great option for you. The third option is a personal brand or like an offshoot of your name. So basically it's like literally using your name, whatever your name is, your personal brand, and therefore that is your brand name, that is your company name, and all that stuff. And I actually have made a video about personal brand or a company name, like which one should you choose? So you can take a look at that. I made that video because I actually used to be a personal brand for the first about maybe 3.5 years in my business coaching company. I was just Camila Gornia. Here I am. I do these things and that's that. And I decided to actually rebrand under Heart Behind Hustle for a lot of different reasons. I'm not going to get into them right here, but if you want to be an author or a speaker, or you just have a vision of people knowing your name and you want to have everything under your name, it might potentially make sense for you to have a business with your name. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and you already know if it aligns with you or not, probably. Now, another option is to use an offshoot off of your name. So my agency, actually, I used to have an agency. Now I just do some service projects for some clients. And that was called Camila Social. And that is actually my official company name. My LLC is Camila Social. So it's my first name. And then I added social because I thought I wanted to just focus on social media marketing in the beginning when I first started the business. And I knew it'd be a good umbrella name for a lot of different things that I would potentially do. So that also worked. And that is the name that I use for when I run ads for my clients, for Facebook ads and things like that, or do consulting and that sort of thing. So that is definitely an option. It can be really great for you if you're an influencer, a YouTuber, blogger, or a coach, healer, you know, somebody that actually has a big vision for having your name, like Tony Robbins, you know, Marie Forleo, Gabby Bernstein, you know, a lot of people like that is just their name. And that's just what it is. There are some people that use the offshoot like Kelly Roach Coaching. The last category are message-driven names. So this is a little bit different from a descriptive name because a descriptive name is like, I literally tell you what it is. There is some overlap with the message-driven brand, but the message-driven name is really perfect for like a movement brand. It's something bigger. It might not necessarily describe a result, although it could, but it just has a different energy around it. So it's great for businesses that have like information products that sell consulting, potentially education, information, and also companies that have like a movement behind them. So spoiler alert, Heart Behind Hustle, my business, is a movement brand name. It isn't necessarily descriptive, right? It's like Heart Behind Hustle, I guess, kind of, but the message behind it is what really matters, right? It's we hustle and we have the heart behind it. So heart is more important than just like hustling, you know? So there's a lot of meanings to it, but and anytime people hear it, they're like, "Ooh, I really love that. I'm behind that." Like they get it. So it's not like, "Oh, I want some of it." It's like, I'm behind it. It's a different energy. Another great name for one of my former clients, Katya, is Reach and Make Millions. I love that because it is descriptive at the same time, but it also has that vision. It really creates that energy of like, yes, this is what I want. This is what I'm ready for. So again, there is a little bit of overlap there. Now, I want to tell you my brand new name of my company. I'm so excited. I want to tell you why I'm choosing it, okay? And my new brand, I keep saying company. It's really a business name, a brand name. It's really a brand name. I am not a huge fan of going with my name for my stuff. I used to be, and you'll see why, or you'll see in general. I'm not a huge fan of using my name for my stuff because I want to make things that are more scalable so that I don't have to be the one doing everything all the time. But I'm, like I told you guys last week, I'm actually going to be starting a new brand all about attracting money, manifesting money, but really managing money too. So I'm going to talk about finances in general and investing and how to make money in a lot of different ways. Of course, in this channel, I'll talk about how to make money in your business and how to grow your business, but I'm not going to talk about marketing in that other channel. It's also going to be a YouTube channel. It's going to be more just money related in general. I'm not going to talk about debt or things like that. It's going to be more positive and like attract money. So there's a word that was kind of floating around my mind. And I had this energy of like, I want money to feel fun. I want money to feel like exciting for people. And I want my audience to feel like they're changing their relationship with money to be something that's more like almost like a game. Like it's fun, it's exciting, and they're able to attract it versus having a lot of heaviness that people hold when it comes to talking about money. And I remember once I saw somebody do something online that was with the name of like, I don't exactly remember. It was something money, honey, something like that. And I was like, I've always liked that company. I love that it rhymes, first of all, which might sound cheesy, but it's not. It's sweet. I like the combination that it rhymes. And I decided I was kind of playing around with the words, and I was like, oh, could I just, anyway, I'm not going to go through the whole process. But anyway, my brand new name for the brand new brand, the brand new business is Money Like Honey. Yeah. I freaking love it. I love it. Now I will say, apparently there's a meaning to honey money. My friend had told me, she saw some movie and it's like, I guess like prostitutes would have honey. They call it honey money. Like no money, you get no honey. And I was like, I'd never heard of this. And it's possible that it's true, but I'm not saying honey money. I'm saying money like honey with I'm going to say like attract money like bees to honey. And, this is, create money, treat money like honey because honey is great. And it's, anyway, I haven't figured it all out yet. This is why we're here. This is why this is Behind the Scenes Tuesdays. And I'm going to bring you behind the scenes as I build this whole thing. I don't have a logo for it yet. I don't have any of that. You will see as I create the logo, as I get the logo, as I get all the things. So stick around to make sure you hit that subscribe button because things are going to happen here. But Money Like Honey, it's going to be fun. It's going to be nice. Some yellows, some bees. And I do like honey, I got to say. And I like drinking tea. So I'll probably have some tea and some, anyway. So that's what it is. And it's going to be fun. It's kind of like, yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on because you're here for yourself, not just for me. I know. Let's just move on. So let's talk about a couple things to consider when it comes to choosing your brand name. Number one, you want to make sure your brand name, your company name, is portraying a positive message. So it's not saying something, especially when it's a descriptive name, you want it to be positive in general. Like you don't want it to be kind of like negative or confusing or anything like that. That's really, really important. The second piece that you need to consider is you want your name to be simple. You want it to be straightforward, and the simpler it is or the shorter it is, the easier it will be to remember versus a really long name that has a lot of words. It's going to be more difficult for people to remember what exactly the words were and things like that. And I do see that. I know I kind of made that mistake. My Heart Behind Hustle name does have 3 words. People often add additional the. So often people will say, the heart behind the hustle. So they're kind of expanding it, which does actually add to a little bit of confusion when people are typing it into Google and things like that. Although people still find my website and everything pretty easily, but that's something to consider, right? So simpler is always better. It's easier to remember. The easier to remember it is, the better it will be for you. Another big thing is try not to use words that are easy to misspell. What do I mean by that? Well, if people are frequently misspelling a specific word and you're like super into it, I don't know, that might be a challenging word to use for your brand name, even if you have fallen in love with it and it's awesome and it's amazing. If, for example, you're all about like, shiverless something or other, and then people can't spell that, then obviously they're not going to find your website. They're not going to find you on YouTube. They're not going to find you because they don't even know how to spell it. But one of my friends was going to start a business that was like something connoisseur. I'm like, how many people know how to spell that? Like, yeah, we have spell check, but do you really want people to hopefully use it, right? Like probably not. So simple is always better. Try to make it words that a 3rd grader would be able to spell, at least most of the time. Another tip to consider is try not to come up with a name that might potentially limit you in the future. So for example, if I was creating, Money Like Honey, and I knew that I wanted to eventually talk about other things, not just money related things or, abundance type of related things. If I wanted to talk about, I don't know, beauty, or if I wanted to talk about health or whatever, Money Like Honey, it would be limiting, right? Because the word in itself, the topic is in the brand name. It's money, right? It would be very confusing if I started to talk about relationships or dating or, whatever else. It just wouldn't make sense. So if you're coming up with a name, just because something sounds really cool, if you know deep inside you want to eventually expand, really take that into consideration before you choose that name so it doesn't feel limiting to you in the future. It's very common actually for my clients to start with one niche, move into another, and so on and so forth. And if you think you're going to be doing that, I would probably go with a personal brand instead, especially if you're a coach or service provider or a blogger or whatever, because it's much easier for you to pivot and shift niches if you're just a personal brand, if you just use your name versus a specific brand name, right? But if you already know what you're focusing on, you already know what your message is, you're kind of established, when focusing on a specific brand name, I think is a good idea. It's much more scalable. It's much more easy as well. Now, with that said, a lot of times, especially younger generations, and I include that myself, a millennial, millennials and whoever it is before millennials, Gen X, is it? I don't even know. Sometimes they will come up with brand names that are like focused around a slang word, trendy, fad type of thing. And it sounds really cool for the moment, right? Like the name sounds awesome. People are like super into it. People used to say like slay or like, bye Felicia or whatever. If you made a brand name or a company name around those memes or around those trends or fads or like that slang, that inherently is not going to last very long typically, right? Because that phase for it is gonna move, like people are gonna move on eventually, right? So when people are using the word slay now, I'm kind of like, no one's really saying that anymore, right? Or people use whatever type of, I can't even think of specific words, but like anything that's kind of more trendy, we never really use words like that or slang for longer than a few years. So if you're planning on your business being around for a long time, like maybe don't do that. Maybe just don't. I don't know. It's just like when I start a business, I want it to be around for years. I don't want it to be around just for today, just for a few weeks, just for a few months, or even just a year. I want it to be around for a long time. And hopefully you're the same. So just keep that in mind. If you were going to, name it something really like, Yas Queen business, like you can, but like, is it going to be harder to rebrand in the future when people no longer think that's cool? Yeah, probably. So. And last thing to consider too, make sure that no one has taken that name already. So, do a trademark search, probably the easiest thing. You want to make sure it's not in the same industry as you. I'm not an attorney at all, so don't even listen to what I'm about to say, but maybe do. Yeah, you just want to make sure that you're not taking other people's names who are already trademarked. A lot of people have done this with Heart Behind Hustle. And I'll tell you, anybody in the business space, business consulting, marketing space that uses the words heart and hustle together, I can come after you because Heart Behind Hustle is trademarked and no one's really allowed to use those words together. And I've already gone after people, not a lot, but there was somebody also in San Diego, which is interesting, that used a very, very similar words, the same exact thing as me. And I was like, And she had blocked me on Instagram, so she knew that she was doing something wrong. Someone told me about it. And then I found her and I was like, yo, not okay. And her lawyer reached out and they're like, hey, give her some time to rebrand. She needs like 2 months to rebrand because, whatever. But I could have gone after her. I could have been like, hey, it's confusing, right? Because it's about confusion. Right? So if I'm selling the same thing as someone else, it does get confusing for my potential client who's like, oh, Heart Behind Hustle or Heart and Hustle. Some people will say heart and hustle for my brand, right? Even though that's not the exact brand name. So keep that in mind. If you don't want to, if you don't want to get into trouble with the law, just choose something that's not going to be as easy to confuse with somebody else's company, especially in the same industry as you, especially in the same niche as you. Now, if you're going to be coming up with a name that is a longer name, like there's multiple words in the name, keep in mind that longer names are going to be harder to remember than short names. I obviously like to have longer names, apparently, because it's not my first time. I think actually pretty much every single brand I've ever created had multiple words in it. So it is what it is. But if you can, try to stick to no more than 3 words in a brand name. Of course, this isn't like a hard and fast rule, but the less words, the better. If there's 2 words, great. If there's 3, it's like, okay. If there's 4, it's like, try to kind of stay away from that if you can. If you are also using multiple names, also keep in mind what the acronym is going to be. Make sure it's nothing weird. Make sure it's something offensive or if it's something misaligned with your industry. So if you're in a professional services industry, maybe you're an attorney, if your brand name spells out ass, A-S-S, maybe not super professional, maybe not super relevant to like you. Now, if you're like in the sexual space, maybe you're like, I don't know, you're a sex therapist, so then maybe ass is fine, right? Maybe that's fine. But so you just have to keep that in mind so that it doesn't make sense. Also, you have to keep in mind how all the words are actually going to look together. So this is in particular when you're going to have a domain name and a website name. You know, sometimes when the words are smushed together, they kind of start to look a little bit weird. They might actually say something different than what they meant to say. And we've all seen the pictures of like, oh, you know, the name is whatever, but it actually shows up as something completely different. And it ends up being pretty funny, but also not funny for the business owner. So, you know, keep that in mind, I think. Also, if you're gonna be using something like a pun or like a cool saying or like an inside joke, and you have to like really explain what it means and people aren't getting it. And yeah, it just like, you like say and they're like, what? Maybe don't go with that. Maybe don't go with that name, right? Like test it out in front of a few people. Like when I came up with money like honey, I asked a few people and not everyone's going to be thrilled, but you have to be the most excited. But other people also have to kind of like be like, okay, yeah, I can kind of see that, right? Like it kind of makes sense. So not that random people should be giving you advice because they probably haven't started a business, right? So who are they to say? But, and also, by the way, if you need help, you can come and join our Facebook group. We have a free Facebook group. It's called Aligned and Profitable Coaches and Course Creators. So if you're coming up with a brand name for your coaching or service provider type of business, you can ask us inside of the Facebook group. And I'm sure people will help you come up with a good name as well. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you. Now, I will say that in order to come up with a name, there's a lot of different approaches you can take too. And, you know, you can come up with a random word like Google or Twitter and things like that. You can also like take a few different words together and put them into one word. So things like Facebook, you know, Facebook, put it together. Software that I use, Active Campaign, you know, it's active. It's something is active. A campaign. Oh, it's an active campaign. That is an email provider CRM that I use. So two words were put together to form a brand name. Another example is deadline funnels. Also a software I use in my business. Deadline, like countdown type of deadline. There's a deadline. Funnels, very common word in my marketing space. Deadline funnels put together, yay. Makes total sense. Another option that you can take is take a commonly used word and kind of like spice it up. So the example that comes to me the most is Shopify, right? So Shopify is an e-commerce platform that allows people in the e-commerce space to build websites and things like that. So Shopify, Shopify, like, okay, that's pretty cool. And there's a couple other words, brand names that have done the same thing. So you can also try to come up with like, okay, what's a word that's kind of relevant to what you're doing? Can you like spice it up somehow and make it like fun so it's easier to remember? And of course, the one that people really like to use a lot is using like business name generators. And I'm going to be totally honest, I think most of them kind of suck. I've tried a few of them as research for this video, and pretty much all of them are just wanting you to like get a domain name through them, and they're pretty expensive. And the keywords that you're typing in, it just tells you the exact keyword. And I'm like, that was lame. That was not helpful. I haven't found a really good brand name generator. I'm going to be honest. Like, I think all of them are probably kind of lame. So I don't recommend using them unless you found one that's like a unicorn and it's actually good. But even then, it's like, I don't know. If you have found one that you like, let us know below. I just haven't. So I'm not going to even tell you which one to go to because honestly, I think they're all kind of lame. No offense if you found your brand name like that. Hopefully no one else has taken it, right? Because it's not like you came up with it. Anyway, that's what I got for you for this video. So hopefully when we're ready to start branding Money Like Honey, you're going to be around here next week because that's probably what we're going to do. We're going to talk about branding in, that sort of thing. So you're going to be able to take your business and do the stuff and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me for this long video, but I really appreciate you and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.